How do you know if your problem is adaptive? Well, the short answer is if you're still the smartest person in the room who knows how to fix it, then it's probably technical. But seriously, adaptive challenges, adaptive problems don't have known answers. That's what makes them adaptive. And so it requires people, yourself, your team, and others to genuinely learn new ways of doing things. For example, getting people to use a system, not just train on it, or resetting power between headquarters and field offices after a restructuring, or just simply when the way we do things around here is no longer sufficient. Is my leadership challenge too big or too small? The way I like to think about this is if the way you talk about your challenge allows everybody to nod their heads and not do anything about it, then it's probably too big. Ending world hunger, for example. Important to do, everyone can agree, but there's no real meat on those bones. And on the other hand, if it's too small, people might be on board with it, but they can't see how that connects to the larger change that you're trying to drive. So, something that's too small, for example, might be getting my manager to delegate better. Important to do, but what's the bigger change? A right sized challenge might be something like getting my team leaders to see themselves as leaders, not just as technical specialists. What if your boss is the problem or your supervisor? Well, while it may seem that that's the problem, and in some cases maybe it is, a question to ask yourself is what is the challenge that your supervisor or boss is trying to solve that results in behavior that to you seems problematic? Their behavior is often embedded in a larger challenge that the organization or that their larger team is struggling to respond to. So that might be a hint to you as to what the adaptive challenge may be, rather than pinning it on one individual. What if you pick the wrong leadership challenge? The nature of adaptive work is that you learn as you go, and what you thought was the challenge, the presenting problem, often turns out not to be the challenge. So while it's important to have a clear articulation of the problem going in, part of the nature of leading adaptive change is the willingness to commit to something wholeheartedly, 100% in, while being open to the possibility that you're dead wrong. So I encourage you to choose a challenge that feels right to you, but not be too wedded to it in case circumstances change or through deeper diagnosis and talking to other stakeholders, you realize that there's something else behind this challenge. What if addressing your leadership challenge feels like it might put your job at risk? Well, this is a leadership development program, not a leadership martyr program. So I encourage you to choose something that's meaningful to you, that's meaningful to the organization, but doesn't take unnecessary risks. Having said that, adaptive leadership will always feel risky. You're never authorized to lead. So if it doesn't feel a little bit uncomfortable, if it doesn't feel like it requires some risk, then you might be playing it too safe. What if your challenge has both technical parts and adaptive parts? A new safety protocol rollout, for example, includes a training component, but it also requires people to have a different kind of relationship to risk and to safety, and changes in behavior and ways of working that reflect that. Cross regional coordination is another example that requires the technical communication tools and collaboration tools, but building healthy working relationships across geographies, across cultures, across different kinds of competing pressures itself would be adaptive work. What if you have multiple leadership challenges? Which one do you choose? For this program, you'll just be choosing one. But I think you'll find over time that working on adaptive challenges and making progress on them has its own kind of built in incentive. So as you work on your one challenge, you might find there are others that you feel excited or equipped to address. And as always, when you kind of reach one horizon, having achieved one horizon, you'll always see another horizon on the distance. So adaptive work is always unfolding in this way.